here. Today is March, which means it is time for my February wrap-up. Right. Similar to January, I listened to a lot of audiobooks this month. So about half of my books I have physical copies of this time, and half of them are audiobooks. I'm going to get into the books in order of when I finished them. My first two books were ones that I was listening to and reading at the end of February, so you already heard a little bit about these. First up was Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which I believe I had actually finished by the time I posted my last video, so I kind of gave all of my thoughts there, and I'll link that below. I adored that book. It was one where I was breaking my rules and listening to the book when I was walking around school, and probably at home too, because I just couldn't get enough. It's about a boy who is in the closet but emailing back and forth with a mysterious guy that he's basically in love with. And then he ends up being blackmailed to help somebody else try to get a girl that he's friends with. And it goes very deep into friendship and coming of age and honesty, and I just adored that story. I gave it 5 stars, and there was never a question of giving it less. There's a movie that they are making for it. I believe they're still in the casting mode, but I'm really excited to see it because this book was phenomenal. Unfortunately, I did not get to do a book talk for it just because there were so many books that I've been reading recently, and I can't do a book talk for every single one. But I definitely love this book, and everybody should read it, for sure. The next book that I read this month was By Your Side by Casey West, and I actually read all of Casey West's other single books before this, leading up to it, and I did a joint book talk for all of the ones except this one. I had meant to do a book talk for this one, but I didn't love it as much as some of her other ones, so it didn't really happen, again, because I had so many books I read recently. This one is about Autumn, who gets stuck in a library with a cute guy, but she's kind of into somebody else at the beginning, but then she's getting close to this other guy, and it's a little bit more complicated than a lot. There are also some deeper themes in this one than in some of Casey West's other books, because she has crazy anxiety, but she's keeping that a secret from all of her friends, so nobody knows about it. Again, this one was not my favorite Casey West book. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars, but I definitely recommend some of her other ones more than this one. Next was another audiobook that I listened to called Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley. This is one I also gave 4 stars to. I gave 4 stars to most books this month. I did really enjoy it. I was a little back and forth. This is a story about a boy with severe agoraphobia and a girl who thinks that she can help him because she wants to be a psychiatrist, and somehow that means that she can help him when she's still in high school. But she ends up befriending him and bringing her boyfriend in as well, and they become pretty much a part of his life, like the biggest part of his life. There were certain parts where I kind of wanted it to go 2 ways at once, and I can't really get into that without giving spoilers, but I was a little conflicted about which way I wanted it to go, which isn't a problem. I like that it was complicated because life is complicated. The 2 main characters were extremely flawed in completely different ways. One was very sincere and an absolutely fantastic person on the inside, but had this one major thing that was keeping him from life. And then the other one was a little bit full of herself and not the most moral person, but the 2 of them going together, they were able to help each other grow in very different ways again. And I really did like where it ended up, even though, again, there were a couple ways I would have liked it to go, but I do like the way it ended. Next, I read my most anticipated book of the month, and that is King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. Guys, this book destroyed me in the most wonderful way. I gave it 5 stars. There was no question about what I was going to give this book. I was on the edge of my seat. I do have a full 20-minute book talk for this one, which you should definitely check out if you've read it or if you haven't read it. I don't care. Well, I do care because when I give a spoiler warning, you should turn it off if you haven't read it. But check that out. I adored this book. I think it might actually be my favorite so far in this series, and there's one more book coming out next year that now I need to wait for. But yeah, I will link my video for that below, and I'll also have a card for it. Check that out. Next, I read A Totally Awkward Love Story by Tom Ellen and Lucy Iveson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. This one is a British story about two people that meet in a bathroom and have a connection, but one of them is kind of seeing somebody else at the time, and then there are a bunch of misunderstandings, but they keep running into each other, and it's awkward to say the least in several moments, and it was frustrating, but it was also kind of adorable. My one issue with this is I don't know if it's because it's British and it's just a different society to us, but it was much more specific and detailed in certain aspects than I'm used to, and it made me a little uncomfortable at times, but that was also kind of the idea because they're awkward teenagers and they're trying to make a relationship happen when they've never had experience with something real before. I did enjoy it. Again, 4 stars. Yeah, it was really cute. I don't have a book talk for it. Again, too many books and too much going on. But it was really cute, but it was also a little too specific for me. Next was an audiobook that I finally had a chance to get to, The Midnight Star by Marie Lu. This is the 3rd book in the Young Elites series, which I read the first 2 books as soon as they came out because I loved Marie Lu. I didn't love the 2nd book. I was actually extremely disappointed in it, and I didn't like the way it looked like the story was going. That's why I didn't pick this one up for quite a while. But I did like it more than the 2nd one for sure. The problem is, I think I had blocked some of the 2nd one from my head, so when a lot of things were happening in that one, I didn't remember where it came from because I had no recollection of the things leading up to it in book 2. But anyway, I gave that one 4 stars. Honestly, if I had enjoyed book 2 and therefore the series more, it probably would have been a 5-star book because I can respect that this book was strong. I'm a little confused about what was going on at the ending. I think I need to talk to some friends about that, but it was a very strong conclusion, especially if you enjoyed the first one and the 2nd one, which I did not particularly enjoy. But if you did, definitely read this one because you will absolutely love it. Next, I read The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. Definitely not my favorite book of the month. I gave it 3.5 stars, though I did round up, because I like the idea overall. I just didn't love the way it came to be. The idea is that in all of these stories, there are the chosen ones that are the people that are meant to fight the evil forces and do all of these crazy things. But then there are other people that are just kind of there. So this book is following the people that are just there. And the reason I rounded up, I really liked the way they did it. Each chapter started with a little summary of what was happening in the quote-unquote real story, meaning with the chosen ones, they call the indie kids. And then it went into what was going on with these main characters. Part of the problem I had with it is they were interacting with the phenomenons going on enough for most of the book, where they basically were part of the main story, especially because half of the people in it should have been indie kids, so it kind of defeated the purpose. But at the same time, it was interesting to see what's going on with other people while the crazy things are going on. My main issue was I never fully connected with the characters in this, and I don't know if it's just the writing style or what, but I never really cared about anyone, as terrible as that sounds, and that's not normal for me. Like, I didn't care about the couples really. I did a little, but not a lot. I wasn't crazy about this one. Sorry. Next, I audiobooked The Jewel by Amy Ewing, and I've been meaning to read this series for a while, and one of my friends finally got me to read it. This is about a girl who is a surrogate for the royalty in the city, and surrogates are only chosen from the poorest, but they have these magical abilities that are supposed to help the babies become stronger or better. I'm not fully sure. That's still a little confusing. I did really enjoy the story. I gave it 82%. My issue with this is I'm somebody that kind of lives for the romance in stories, even ones where romance isn't the main thing. I latch onto the romance, and I wasn't feeling the love story as much as I normally do in this story. I loved the overall story, I really did, but it was just missing that aspect. I wasn't buying the love story as much as I wanted to. That's what was holding me back from absolutely adoring this story. I did feel like I needed to read the second one immediately when it finished, and I do have a book talk for this book that you should definitely check out as well. The next book I read in February was The End of Our Story by Meg Heston, and this is an arc. The actual book comes out in April. I am planning to do a book talk, like right after this, but you won't see it until April when the book is coming out. But I really enjoyed this book. It is about two people who grew up best friends and ended up falling for each other in high school, but then one of them did something to break the other's heart. And then they basically don't talk to each other for a year, but then tragedy strikes and they come back together. Now they need to decide if what they used to have could still be there, or if too much has happened and changed since then. There are extremely dark aspects of this book, but I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this 87 or 88%. I just wasn't quite ready to round up to the 5 stars, but it was so good. The one thing I don't love about it is the ending. It doesn't fully tell you what's going to happen next. I'm not going to get into spoilers again because this comes out in April, but I would have liked a little bit more information in the ending. But you do have a feel of what's going to happen, and I really did enjoy this story. And that's all I'm going to say, because spoilers. The final book I finished, and again an audiobook, this month was The White Rose, which is the sequel to The Jewel. I also gave this one 4 stars. I considered giving it 5 stars, but then I realized I was only thinking about 5 stars because of the ending, but I mean, it was a crazy, crazy ending. If you've read that book, you know why it was a crazy, crazy ending. I was texting my friend, freaking out at the ending. I have very similar things to say about this one as I said about the first one. I still am not fully invested in the lead romance in it, but I do love the overall story arc. Again, I thought about giving it 5 stars. I ended up not. It's like 86%, I think. I did enjoy it, and I'm really waiting to get my hands on book 3. I did start reading one book at the very end of the month, so I'm going to talk about those. The book that I started on Monday, mostly because even though it came out on Tuesday, it was the first 5 book for this month, was The Hate U Give. I have been so, I don't even know if excited is the right word for this, because I've been terrified of this book because of emotions, but also extremely needing it. I've needed this book. It is about a girl who is kind of trapped between 2 worlds. She lives in the ghetto, basically, but she goes to a private school. She has her old friends who get into some mischief and rough parties and such. And then she has her school friends who have never lived that kind of life. One day she goes to a party and ends up having to leave the party when the cops show up with an old friend, and they get pulled over, and he ends up being killed by the police officer that pulled them over. She's the only witness, and then she needs to decide if she's going to be honest and speak her story and try to find justice, or take a step back and worry about her own life and safety. And yeah, I've already cried twice reading this. I'm only 52 pages in, I think, but I need this, like I said. And the reviews that have already come out before the book was released have been so good, and I'm just, yeah, I need this book. That is it. I thought there was one more audiobook, but I realized I started it today, which is March. So that was the last one. there are 2 books I received from my friends at Entangled Teen, which I would love to show you. Just a couple days ago, I got Guardian of Secrets by Brenda Drake. I have a Fandom Feels video for the first book in the series. It is the Library Jumper series, in which this girl finds out that she has the power to jump into a library book with pictures of other libraries and appear at the other libraries. And there are certain people that have this gift, and there are people trying to hurt them and such. And I need to kind of remind myself what happened in the first one a little before I read this one. It wasn't my favorite story in the world, but I did enjoy it enough to read the second one. So I'll check this out pretty soon, I hope. Reading the back makes me a little nervous because the couple I really liked in the first one seems like they're having issues in this one. And Entangled Teen sent me one more book this month, Island of Exiles by Erica Cameron. So this looks like it's about a girl who lives on an island where you're kind of expected to die young, but all of a sudden the girl's brother's life is in danger, and the only way she can stop him is join with somebody that seems to be her enemy and turn against her clan. And I assume she's going to end up falling for the guy that's supposed to be her enemy, because that's what happens. That is it for books in February. I am so excited for what's coming in March. I actually will have some time to catch up on some old reading, because after The Hate You Give, and I obviously need to read The Black Key, which is the 3rd book in the Jewel series, I don't have another book that I've been anxiously waiting for until Strange the Dreamer at the end of March. So I'm going to do some catch-up reading in March, and I'm super excited. Do not forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe by clicking up here, and check out some of my other videos, maybe, yeah. Click the ones below about any of the books that I talked about here and have a video for. And I will talk to you next time.